when we're stuck in the middle of our shit, it can be really hard to see that there is any possible way out. It's like you're in that middle of the tunnel. It is very hard to see and almost impossible to see that there is an end, that there is a light, because you can't even see it. That's where faith comes in, and you have to trust. And that can be even hard for some of you, maybe all of you, myself included, to go into that faith when you have such a lineage and such a long list of evidence and proof of being screwed over, of things not working out, of things going sideways, of you not being picked, of things that you're wanting not happening, not manifesting. But this episode and this interview is undeniable proof for you, as I've done in many other episodes, to where you will walk away knowing without a doubt that light is there, whether you can see it. That way out is there, whether you can see it or feel it or taste it right now. So no matter where you're at in life or how stuck or unfulfilled you might feel, you always have the power to forge a new path. And you will see this today in this incredible interview with my client, Amber James. She is the author of the book that is now out right here today, I Blew Up My Life and Never Been Happier. She's also the founder of the Notes to Self shop. And this is great insight to see, what happens when you work with me, as she's an incredible client of mine who takes the risks on repeat, and then you'll see what happens with the rewards that are waiting on the other side. This is the absolute last day and your last chance to apply to my 4-month business mastermind, the Abundance League, which also includes a 2-day live in-person event at my beach house. So you do not want to wait on this. This is not happening again in 2023. I don't know when I'll be running this mastermind again, period. So go swipe up. The link with the details and the application is right in the show notes. You can go to projectmewithtiffany.com/abundance league. It's also in my link in bio on Instagram and TikTok. And hear from Tina. Tiffany gave me my life back. While I was making great money, I felt like a prisoner to my business. I even started hating it because I was so exhausted. Thank God I trusted Tiffany to show me a different way to run my business. Now I work half of what I used to and make more money than ever. And she is a chiropractor and wellness expert, just for reference. This Abundance League Mastermind is designed to fill the holes in your business and your mindset to get that cash flowing while continuously growing, and you strategically doing less so you can make more. You know the move. If you are feeling drawn, at least do yourself the favor of reading through the page. And then if you're continued to have that feeling of being drawn and called, and I need to look into this further, I might be scared, I might have these hesitations, I might be afraid, oh my God, Tiffany might not accept my application, maybe I'm not far enough along, I've spent all this money before and I didn't really feel I got results, should I be spending more money right now? And you're doing this insane dance in your head, apply and we'll make that determination. But don't apply just looking to see and get some kind of a bump and get to talk to me. It doesn't work like that. I want you to read through the page and you're inclined and you want to make absolutely sure this is the best use of your time, energy, and money right now. That's what these 15 minutes calls are for. Please don't take up a space if you're not truly serious about investing your heart, energy, time, and money into manifesting what it is you want for yourself, your business, your life, your legacy, and your freedom. If you're tired of hearing the same old basic mindset and motivational fluff talk, you've come to the right show. Welcome to Project Me with Tiffany Carter, the podcast, where we dish on everything from managing that crazy brain of yours to manifesting abundance to my straightforward, actionable steps that will make you major money online. Now, I'm not your typical multimillionaire entrepreneur. It takes a small village to keep my anxiety and depression in check. I'm inherently disorganized with an intense obsession with office supplies. Your girl here is a digital marketing content expert who's generated over $200 million in sales. I promise by tuning in twice a week, you will get a much needed refreshing dose of truth, clarity, and cash making advice. Now let's get to it. What up, my people, my posse, my fellow crazies? This is your host, Tiffany Carter, and you are listening to the show that is going to help you grow your business, your bank account, that big, beautiful brain of yours, your abundance, your relationships, and everything in between. Now, I know there are a lot of you that for sure have a book in you, that you've thought about it, that you really want to do it. Maybe you've written it. Maybe it's partially written like mine is, and you're having a hard time finishing it. And then you procrastinate, and then it feels uncomfortable. And then you tell yourself, oh, well, if I just could take some trip to the south of France by myself without my children, then I would write it. Or I'm just going to go away for a week and then I'll get all of that done. And then that never happens. And now we're another year later and another year later, and that book that you want still isn't out. Well, I couldn't think of anyone better to bring on than my client and now published author, Amber James. She is the founder of the Notes to Self brand. So she has the Notes to Self shop, Notes to Self Instagram. So you got to go check it out. And her book is really best for someone who is in that like mundane, same cycle in life. You want to get off it. You don't know how to get off it. And you need evidence that it's worth you taking a risk to jump and do it. I mean, the title of the book is I Blew Up My Life and I've Never Been Happier. And I can vouch for her. It's not just a gimmick because the title's so clever. Like, she really did blow up her life and it really did get better. So welcome to the show, Amber.
Hi, Tiffany. Thank you so much for having me.
And we've got Penny. We got a little baby. We got baby here for those of you guys watching the show on YouTube now. So ProjectME TV, you can watch the show on YouTube when I have guests, which is really fun because there's lots of shenanigans that happen. She's always wanting to get involved. So let's tell the people what happened. What do you mean by you blew up your life? Like, where were you at in your life?
Well, let me see. There's so many things to this story that a lot of people don't even believe that it all happened to one person over the course of like 2 years. But it really all started when I decided to blow up my life. What I mean by that is I left my 6-figure job in corporate America. I broke up with my fiance, called off our engagement, and I also left New York City after living there for 15 years. I just walked away from all of it. Now, it didn't happen overnight. It really all started when I started to have some health issues during COVID. That was the biggest thing. Once we were on lockdown and I finally had a chance to stop and think about stuff instead of hustling 24 hours a day, which is so everyone glorifies hustle culture in New York. That's how you say you're successful. I remember waking up at 3 a.m. one time and I was checking my email.
Oh my God. I can believe it though. New Yorkers are wild.
We're crazy. Yeah. But that was just the culture that everybody did. But then once COVID hit and then I was really able to center myself, I started to realize what's really going to make me happy. Am I even happy anymore? And then, as the universe would have it, I tried to just procrastinate and put it off. So the universe was like, okay, well, we're going to make you slow down even more. And I ended up in the hospital first with appendicitis. So I had to have an emergency surgery. And that was all during COVID too, where they didn't want you in that hospital unless you were like on the brink, And I was even scared to go. I almost didn't go because I was terrified. I wasn't sure if it was even safe to go to the hospital, but I knew in my gut something was completely wrong. So yeah, I lost my appendix. And then 2 months later, I ended up back in the hospital because once again, the universe is just shaking me to say, something's got to give. I had to get my gallbladder removed.
Oh my God. So you had to lose like 2 organs. Are those considered organs?
Yeah, 2 organs to finally, like, for the universe to finally listen.
Wow.
And I just remember waking up, and it's one of those weird moments. You're coming out of anesthesia, and I'm like asking the nurse, when he's going to start giving me pain medication? She's like, she looks at me really funny, and she's like, you're on like the highest dose of like fentanyl that we can give you in a hospital setting. And I remember my jaw just dropping and being like, oh shit. Because in a medical setting, like fentanyl is like 50 times higher than morphine. Like that, I shouldn't have been feeling anything. And I was still in so much pain. And I remember just telling her and other people, like, man, if I make it out of this, I've got to start living for myself because life is too short.
And you were, before this, would you have considered yourself like a young, healthy person? Or did you have all these other medical conditions before?
So I would like to consider myself pretty healthy. I've had some digestive issues over the last decade, which that might have just been stress or city induced. But when I did go to try to address those, doctors would just write it off. Oh, it's that time of the month. Oh, eat more fiber, exercise more. And I'm like, I'm working out 7 days a week. Like these are not normal things that I should be dealing with. And I feel like, I hate to say medically gaslit, but that's really how I felt. Like I started to feel like I was crazy. And that's another reason why I almost didn't go to the hospital when I had appendicitis.
Especially during COVID, because you're like, God, these people, and in New York, where like people were dropping like flies. You're like
dying.
Who would want to go? No one wants to go to the hospital anyway, or even urgent care. It's a pain in the ass during COVID. So you had to really be in a lot of pain and trust yourself to go.
Yeah. And I'm really glad I did. I think it was one of those moments where you just have to listen to your body. And I knew like better to be safe than sorry. That was my thinking at that point. And I knew, well, you know what? If it ends up being nothing, I'm just going to walk home and call it a night. But literally the second I walked into that ER, even though it was COVID, the waiting room was packed. People were sitting on the floors. But when I checked in, told them my symptoms, legit, right into like a bank to be like, you need to get a CT scan. We might be having surgery tonight. And I was like, oh shit.
Which it sounds cliche, but that's saying like your life can change in an instant. Had you not gone, that could have ruptured in your home. You could have passed out. No one would have found you and you could be dead straight up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like my ex-fiance was working really long hours and it's very possible that I could have died. I mean, the fact that they were able to remove my appendix just in time, they said it was a miracle that it didn't rupture before then. Even though I was in the hospital, there's so many tests and so many things going on that even though mine is definitely life or death, there were other people coming in. And so but they said gangrene had started to set in and it was like not even like an organ anymore. They're like, it was literally like, had we not gotten in when we did, that was going to burst in the next like couple minutes.
Oh my God. And so when you had this moment, what kind of clarity came up? Because in my experience in going through health things as well,
and at that time, my relationship was very toxic. My job, I'd hit essentially a glass ceiling. They kept giving me more and more to do to the point that I'm not going to lie to you. A lot of people at work didn't even realize I was in the hospital twice because the work kept happening and I just kept going. And after that second surgery, I realized I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
Wow. Now it's one thing because there's not a single person listening who hasn't had moment or many moments in their life or kind of pings, signs from God, signs from the universe. I need to leave this relationship. I have to leave this job. I need to move. I need to get my shit together with my health. And it's one thing to have the realization and to know. It's a whole different thing to actually do and take the action. So how did that look after you had the realization? Did you take action on it quickly, or did then resistance appear?
I knew in my heart what I needed to do, but it's not something you just flip a switch. I still was like, let me look at my finances, make sure. And I have to say, the one thing, I'm really glad I had a 401k with that job at that time, because they really helped. That honestly helped give me what I needed to say, okay, I have enough money that I can at least quit this job. So I think that was number one. Let me quit the job. And then I was also with my fiance and stuff. It was like, is there anything we can do? Go into couples therapy and just realizing like, why am I here? Do I want to spend the rest of my life feeling like this? And the answer was no. So I knew, if not this, something better. So I always knew sometimes you just have to clear out everything to make room for the good that's meant for you. And it will come. And it did.
How long roughly did it take from you having this moment in the hospital to you quitting the job, breaking it off with the dude, and leaving New York City and the job? Yeah, all the things.
So my second surgery was the end of May 2021. By February 2022, so little less, about a year, that's when I walked away from everything. And it was literally just like an explosion. It was like, okay, I can't wait any longer. So I just jumped and quit it all.
Did you ask permission from anyone? What tends to happen with a lot of us, especially women, is when we're making big decisions that are scary, we like pull our friends. We ask all the people, do you think I should do this? I'm doing this. Did you do any of that? Or were you like, no, I know what I'm doing and I'm doing this regardless?
I think I talked to a few very close friends. I think they knew more about my relationship than my actual job situation. And I know a lot of them had said to me, it doesn't seem right. And we're going to just be honest with you about it. And I am so thankful for those friends who actually spoke up and actually validated what I was feeling. Because I started to feel crazy in my relationship. Like I felt nuts.
And that's a red flag, everybody. In a friendship or relationship, if you feel like you're like on another plane, like, am I seeing things? It's crazy. It's because you're with someone who has crazy making behavior.
Yep. Yeah. Red flag, definitely. If a guy tells you that all of his exes are crazy, believe him and run. Run.
And now you're on that list. You're like,
on the list. I know. It's funny. I said as I was breaking up, I'm like, you can add me to the list of your crazy exes now. So I did say that.
I love the reality of you saying it took you a year, because like if we were to watch this in a movie form, where we were to watch this, in a Lifetime movie of I blew up my life, which I could that'd make a really good film. It would be condensed where you did this in like a 30-day period.
Oh, yeah.
Why did it take you a year to do all these things? Because this could have happened. I mean, you almost died. So you could have really done this in less than 30 days.
Yeah. I mean, I could have. I think there was a little bit of guilt and shame, which, I also had to be doing therapy during this time too. And I think therapy helped me see a little bit more clearly, like, why do I feel guilty for leaving? Why do I feel like a failure if I quit my job and I call off my engagement? It just seemed like everybody would be like, oh, she's a failure. She failed at something. And I think that was what was actually holding me back for as long as it did. But it reached a point when I, like I said, with my therapist, it was really looking internally and saying, stop listening to all this noise. Stop listening about society's expectations and what they think is going to make you happy. And you got to just go for it. And then I think once I made that decision, then it was like, boom, 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 boom. Everything happened. But it was having to let go of like that little mean girl gremlin that was in my head that was just like, oh, people would give anything to have your life, Amber, that kept me where I was.
I do think, which is why I get cringy with the word gratitude. I do think, they call it like toxic positivity. I think there's also toxic gratitude.
Yes.
And that we go, God, people have it so much worse. I have a 6-figure job. I have a 401k. Like, yeah, I'm not happy, but like, I'm not impoverished. We can really build it up. I need to be more grateful. I should be more grateful. And I see so many people that ends up being a mask to continue settling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like you weren't grateful, but you are meant to do something more, because we can also have all those things we want: the abundance, the love, the relationships, the peace, the serenity, and get paid well for it. This doesn't mean you weren't grateful for what you had.
Yeah, I think one of the quotes that stuck with me the most. So Abby Wambach has this incredible quote. It says, "You can be grateful for what you have and demand what you deserve."
Oh,
that quote, I have it written here, like, because I have to look at that every day. And it's like, that clicked in my head in a way that nothing else had. And I was like, hell yeah, Abby Wambach. Like, that spoke to me in a way that really lit that fire in me to say, yeah, why am I settling? Like, both of these things can coexist at once.
How did you know what it is you wanted to do? Or did you not know?
Honestly, I think I knew what I didn't want, which
is a great step, which is very important. In fact, equally as important.
Yeah, it's like I didn't want to be stressed out anymore with work. I wanted freedom. I wanted to be able to work 100% remote. So I knew those things. I knew there were things that I was like, this is how I want to live my life. I don't want to be in New York City anymore. I want to have more freedom. I just want to live in a new city and just experience something that's completely different than what I'd been doing. And thankfully, when I let go of all of that stuff, it's like the universe came back tenfold and said, I'll show you what you're meant to have. And it was so quickly then, within a month of like leaving it all behind, I ended up with a completely remote job that I could work from anywhere in the United States. And like, I'm working in public health communications, which just lights me up in a way that is incredible. And it's just so crazy because I had applied to this job like 2 months earlier and thought like, oh, they're never going to call me. And then here I quit my job. And then suddenly within like 7 days of this interview, I got this job and I was like, shit, I'm making the same money I made in New York City. I can live wherever I want. And it's just, and that's kind of why then I moved to Pittsburgh, because I'd always wanted to live here. And it's just such a beautiful city that I don't think enough people give it credit. But
I don't think so either. I was just going to say that. Like, it is definitely underrated for sure.
Yeah, there's so many beautiful parks. And like my apartment right now is like on the river. And there's all these hiking trails that like you literally step out and you're just like in the woods. It's amazing. And it just, I realized too, my mental health and my physical health also changed when I moved here. I wasn't working out 7 days a week anymore. Now I was just going for a 20, 30-minute walk outside in the morning. And I was feeling healthier, both mentally and physically. And it's just so interesting how those little shifts make such a big difference.
But like you said, you have to let go of what's not serving you and what you're settling for in order to be able to even see what's waiting for you. But a lot of people, I always say they don't want to let go of the branch, but they want to get on the ground and they want certainty. I need to know if I let go of this branch, it's a guarantee I'm not going to get bruised. I'm not going to break a leg. I need to know that it's going to be better on the ground than up here hanging on the branch. And that's where like you have to have some kind of faith in a power greater than yours. You have to have some kind of faith it's going to work out. Where did you find your faith? Because the unknown is kind of scary, right? It's not like you were sitting on some multi-million-dollar like trust fund.
Oh, definitely not. I think a lot of my life I've been built on just go for it, just do it and see what happens. There's actual scientific research that says that people regret not taking a leap, even if they do take a leap and the results are awful. So it's like they would rather, like they'll regret not taking that chance than taking that chance and it not going the way they thought. And I just thought that was so interesting that that's what people would think about on their deathbeds. So I think that's something that I live by. It's like, well, if it doesn't work out, something's going to come along. I'm not just going to sit here, and you still have to hustle and work and make moves. But I've always just had this belief within me that the universe would come through for me and it would all work out.
Yeah. And that when you believe it's going to work out for your greatest good, no matter what, then you can have that trust to like take some risk, because risk is required in order for you to get that reward. Now, the Amber I know, you are truly always delightful. Like, I'm like, is this woman, does she ever cunty with a K? Like, you are always delightful, positive, upbeat, willing, humble, want to learn, crave learning, like a genuine, like you have that zest for life that so many people are deprived of and want so badly. Would this have been the Amber I would have known in New York City before you lost both of your organs?
I think I was still pretty happy and upbeat, but I definitely think the relationship had taken its biggest toll on me. I mean, a lot of people always say, like, when I enter a room, people can just like gravitate towards me because they're like, oh, you're always smiling, you're always happy. And I'm like, that's lots of Zoloft. I'm like, oh yeah, just thank the Zoloft. That's why I'm so happy and cheery. But seriously though, I've always just tried to think about why be so negative with things if you don't have to be, and to just kind of look at the positives. And I know that's tough. And like but life is so short that like you might as well just go all in on yourself. And that's really what I've truly lived by my whole life.
Where did you get the idea to first start this brand? Your Notes to Self brand? Like, it seems so simple, yet it grew so quickly and resonated with so many people.
Yeah. So after my second surgery, my healing journey at that point was really tough. I was in a lot of pain after my gallbladder was removed. So I wasn't really going into work, even though like we could go into work a couple days a week. I can't even commute. I can't even do that. I don't even have the energy. So I was sitting at home. My ex was back at his job, and I started writing myself little Post-it notes. You know, your voice is your superpower. You've got this. You know, today's the day, whatever that means. And these colorful notes I just plastered all over my apartment. And it was just so awesome to see them every day. And it brought this little spark of joy to me. And I think it also helped heal me. And as I created then, I realized how much they helped me, that I was like, oh, maybe I can make these really pretty on Canva. See if it can help other people. That's really what's my whole goal for the Notes to Self shop Instagram. Yeah. Well, Penny's like, yeah. He's so pumped about Notes to Self. But once I started posting it on Instagram, it's like, it felt like overnight, it just exploded. It was people from all over the world were coming to Notes to Self shop and sending me messages saying, I needed this today. And those messages are why I keep doing what I'm doing. It's not even about the money. I mean, the money's good, but it feels like $1,000,000 when somebody tells you, I needed this, or I'm going through a really tough time right now. And this post that your rainbow's coming, like those types of things have helped so many women. And to hear their stories, it makes it all worth it. And it's also like, I can't believe I wasn't doing this sooner. And I'm just thankful that I had the intuition to just go and do it. I thought this Instagram was going to be for like my mom and 5 friends. But seeing the impact that it's made just makes me that much more grateful. And yeah.
You came from a place of genuine, true service.
Yeah.
And that's where the abundance comes, and where things happen so quickly, where people go sideways is they get so scared of, what do I need to do? What can I do to make money? What can I do to make money? And they get so fixated on that part of it that they end up losing the magic of what you were intended to do in the beginning.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, man. But it's just amazing to me that when you really are passionate about something and it really does come from a genuine place of wanting to give back to the world, the money then just comes and you have your people. And there's so many people. I know that there's a couple followers I have that have literally bought like 5 of my journals. Like they're like, if they bought the book, they're giving them to their friends as gifts. And that just means so much to me that they are resonating so much with myself and the brand and what I'm doing and the purpose of Notes to Self Shop. It brings me so much joy. And the money is just an additional great factor.
When your Notes to Self shop, at what point did you go, okay, I'm going to sell something, right? I'm going to take this beyond, right, where people can consume the content on Instagram. I'm going to create some products. And tell us like why you created those products.
Yeah. So I think once it hit like over 20,000 followers, I was getting such great feedback. I knew one thing I'd always wanted to do was create like a guided journal. I love journaling. I love writing. I'm an author, so that's my thing. But I know what I've always heard from people is when I'm standing like staring at a blank page, it's so difficult to know what am I supposed to write. So I'm like, what if I do like a Notes to Self guided journal where I have the notes from the Instagram incorporated in there, and each day kind of has its own little theme. And it's weird. It came out of me, and I had written it and had everything done. I did it all myself.
Where did you do it? Did you make it in Canva? Okay.
All in Canva. And I figured, well, I'm going to see what happens. But it turned out so beautiful and so pretty. And once I started promoting it, everyone started buying it. And it was just selling to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to like hire somebody to help me ship all these orders.
So when you were creating them, you weren't doing like a print on demand thing. You actually had them printed and you were mailing them out to people.
Mm-hmm. But then at that point, I realized, oh, this probably needs to be on Amazon. So I did put it on Amazon, and it's still up there today because it does help to have a print on demand. But for me, I think this is just me and myself, but I love writing little notes to people.
I was just going to say, this is why that worked with you doing it out of your house. And my dear friend and my coach, who I know, Kara, you'll see her traipsing through New York City with a cart, no joke, wearing Chanel, with piled up with pink envelopes. There's something so abundant about the act of you're putting the book in, you're writing the note and sending it. It's not coming from some random third party shipper. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But I love getting mail and packages.
And I mean, that's really what I'm doing too with my new book. Everyone who's pre-ordered, I'm like handwriting these thank you notes and throwing in some extra goodies for them just because I think it's so important to really show that like I'm a real person and I truly appreciate everyone that's helping support my dream because I'm being able to help others. And so every little purchase just means the world to me. And so I think me taking the time to write a handwritten note, it's not that much time to take out of my day. It's like I feel like even if this became like a multi-million-dollar company, I would still want to be handwriting the notes.
I have zero doubt about it. And as your coach, like this needs to be worldwide. And it's not just for the cash factor. God, don't you think we all need to have some more joy and delight? It's so fucking heavy right now, man. I feel like people are craving this.
Yeah.
I feel we need to like make like a joy revolution where we will not stand. We will not stand for any more negativity, and you can do that within yourself, right? You're not going to stand for that soul sucking job. You're not going to stand for that one-sided friendship. You're not going to stand for self-abandoning by having things, a podcast, a book, whatever it is that you've been wanting to start or you have half done, and you keep blowing it off and abandoning yourself. You get to choose at any time. You can choose right now while listening to us. You know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to take a different course of action for myself. And I want you guys to take a screenshot of this episode and tag me at ProjectME with Tiffany, tag Amber at Notes to Self Shop. If you're multitasking and you just tag me, I'll make sure I tag her. And everything is in the show notes. So you can swipe up and get everything. But she also has it right in her bio on Instagram at Notes to Self Shop. But I want you to also share this episode with someone who's coming to your mind, because I know there's someone in your life. It could be your partner. It could be a cousin, someone that's coming to your mind that has shared a dream. They've had a desire, but they keep holding off. Perhaps you're listening to this right now at this very time for a reason, and this is your sign. You could be listening to a lot of other shows, which mine should be top priority. But you could be listening to other shows, but you're listening to this show. Now, here's where many people go sideways, myself included. Okay, cool. The guided journal. Ooh, I want to create a journal. I want to create a planner for moms or a fitness thing, whatever. I have no idea how to list something like that on Amazon. I don't know how to do that. That sounds like it's really hard. Like, I'm not a graphic designer. Can you speak to that? Like, are you a graphic designer?
No, not at all.
I didn't think so. I was like, this like, is Canva like, are you like a Canva whiz or something?
I think at least for the Instagram and for the Notes to Self journal, I was able to put together something really quickly. And it's actually not as hard. I just YouTube, Google it. I just taught myself how to do all these things. There's a video for everything.
And you're not some like super tech savvy person.
No, I literally, it's like having to Google, like, how do I upload this to Amazon? What do I need to do?
I wanted them to hear this. Like, I knew that about you, but these are this is just like resistance coming up. And then it's the resistance of, God, well, what if no one buys it? So did you have any of those thoughts about any of your journals, any of your other products about this book? Right? As like, maybe people are going to think this is lame and no one's going to buy it.
I think there's always going to be that voice. We all have that mean girl. I call mine my gremlin, actually. My gremlin, Harry, is the one that's back there. I gave him a name so that when I say it, it just sounds ridiculous. And anytime I'm starting to self-doubt, and doubt myself, I'm just like, okay, quiet down, Harry. And I just envision that he's like the guy from Home Alone. And it's just like, could you imagine him saying this to you? Like, no, and then it just turns funny. So I think in that regard, I really had to do a lot of work in therapy. Not going to lie. It takes, in my book, I write, it took a village of people to help me get to where I am.
Same. And it still does.
It still does. Yes. And I am grateful for every single one of them, you included. And I just, oh man, I think you have to just start believing in yourself. And if you really in your heart know that this is something that might help at least one person, just do it. You'll be surprised. I am surprised, to be honest with you, how much I've sold. And it just continues to sell. It's like, I'm sitting at brunch and I'm getting little cha-chings on my Shopify store. It's freaking awesome to be like the brunch is paid for. Thanks.
Yeah, we're all about that. And this isn't going to happen, but let's just say, because I like going down the worst case scenario thought, because that's what happens in people's brains. And I have that too. Let's say book is very personal. You're sharing a personal story. You're pouring. I know how you are. You poured your heart into it, and then you have to read it and reread it and reread it and, make sure you're refining it and hiring someone to edit it and all the stuff. And then like the cover and then the photo shoot for the cover, and it's birthing a baby, right? And it's like, how do you detach from launching the book and like looking like, okay, like how many reviews do I have? How many people bought it?
Yeah. I think even up to 20 minutes ago, whenever we first started this, I was thinking, oh my gosh, what if I have a copy editing mistake? What if somebody reads this and they're like, well, this doesn't make any sense? There's still things that will come in my head, but I have to keep going back to that. I know this story is going to help women. And I know when I was going through all of my life situations, I was yearning for stories from other women who had been where I was. So to me, this book is like my hand reaching out to anybody who's at that crossroads, not sure if they should quit the job, leave the abusive relationship, whatever it happens to be. And I'm saying, hey, I've been here and I know how to get out. And this is how. And that's really the defining factor of my book and why I decided, even if there's a little crazy Harry up there saying things, I know at the end of the day, it's going to help so many people. And that's really what keeps guiding me and just to keep going.
You were saying before we came on that, because something that I've coached her on and hoped would resonate with her is that Amber could help other people get their stories on paper. If that's something, even if it's something you just wanted to keep like for a family legacy and you didn't want to publish it because she's so gifted in it. And so there's an opportunity. If you get the book, you'll see there's an opportunity for that. And you said before we started, the actual biggest problem is that they're not writing it. People don't write it. The other stuff, right? Like once the stuff's written, there's a lot of proofreaders, editors, someone who makes like a pretty cover and not for a lot of money. Like you can find all these people.
Yep. And I did.
And it's the actual writing of it and like organizing it in chapters even. I think that stresses people out.
Yeah.
And this is like your first book, but you are a writer, are you not? Like you're someone who writes. So did you have some professional training already going into this where it didn't seem as daunting to you?
I mean, I have a journalism degree and I had been a journalist for the last 15 years. I mean, I still am. I'm still a writer in communications.
You're just on the other side of it.
I'm on the other side of it. But there was just something. When I first started writing this, it was more of a cathartic experience. I wasn't sure if I was even going to turn this into a book. I thought maybe I just need to like put it out, let it flow, do its thing. But the more I kept writing, the more I realized you got to just do it. There were times when I procrastinated. There were times I was writing entries and was bawling my eyes out. There's still times I'm rereading this book and there are certain points that still I can barely get through the chapter because I want to cry because it brings back some memories. But really, it's just being able to keep focus, have your cheerleaders around you that are going to be able to tell you that people need to hear this story. And I think me telling the story and also hearing it from so many people, that kind of kept me going. But I think too, it helped when I was first developing. I hired a couple like beta readers on Fiverr. I even had a couple of my really good friends who kind of seen all this go down. I was like, can you read this? Like, am I missing anything? Does anything not make sense? And I think that also helped with the creative process, was kind of having that small niche group of people, getting some real-time feedback as I was writing. And then I just sort of, once the book was pretty much ready, it's just like setting the deadline for yourself to say, okay, I'm going to write for 30 minutes a day, or I'm going to write 1,000 words today, whatever it happens to be. Make small goals. And you know what? If you miss a day, just get back on the horse. It's like everything. It's like, you know what? Just don't beat yourself up about it. Just keep going. Just start where you were. It's not a setback. I think those are some of the biggest things that definitely kept me going.
Yeah, I had an author on, a published author. They say parenting, shout out. And I loved having her on because I believe, I for sure she has 2 kids, but I think she might have 3. And they were all under 3. And she wrote her book from her closet. And I wanted people to hear her story, because it's like a lot of us tell ourselves, well, if I had more time, if I didn't have a full-time job, if I didn't have kids, if I didn't have this, and this going on in my life, and I could just like free write, well, like I'm at a lake cabin, I would get it done. And you did all this while working a full-time job and operating your business, Notes to Self Shop. And so basically, was this written in like a half an hour of time a day?
Yeah, I think it went in spells. There were some days where it would be 15 minutes, and other days, sometimes it would be, I'd wake up at 5 a.m. That's like my me time, is like 5 a.m. I get my coffee and I would just write, and I would write and then log on to my job at 8:30. But I would spend that morning just writing and having that coffee and that really just zen moment to just take it in. And sometimes you just like go through the writer's block. You're just like, so you'll have good days like that. And then you'll have sometimes where you may not write for a week. And I think that's also good. I don't think it's a setback at all. If anything, it just takes you out of it for a minute so you can kind of have a fresh pair of eyes on it and also a perspective.
Who helped you organize the book in chapters so it kind of made sense? It didn't feel disjointed. Did you hire someone? Did you already kind of know how to do this from being a journalist?
I sort of knew how to do it. I had a couple different versions, and I've moved some things around because it confused people. Like, wait, what happened? What is this? So it's like I tried to make it as linear as possible from beginning to end with a few flashbacks to like certain times. But I think once I read it and I sort of already knew what where the chapters were headed, and was just able to sort of box out those individual stories, but it still goes to the overarching plot of everything.
What would you say to people who are like, well, oh my God, she's a journalist for 15 years. Of course, writing's easy for her. I don't even have a college degree. Yeah, I journal and stuff and I like to write, but I don't have any formal training, and I'm not good at grammar. I'm a horrible speller. I'm dyslexic.
Something that I did. So I actually use like a voice transcription, and sometimes I would be on a morning walk and I would actually transcribe. Like I would just talk into my phone and say exactly what I was thinking. And then I would be home and the transcription would already be done for me. And I think honestly, that also makes it a lot more personable than it's my voice and how I talk. And that makes such a difference. And I think that's something where people don't think about that. Like, oh, I need to write. I need to be doing this. It's like half of my book was me on walks and just talking to myself on my phone like a crazy person, probably. If I have this really great idea, I got to just put it down. So
yeah, if you're not a little crazy, I'm not reading the book.
Okay. So we got to have someone who blows up their lives a little crazy. Otherwise the book's boring, right? We want to hear that in there.
Yeah.
And I really hope that you can see it doesn't have to be that hard. We make it hard. We overcomplicate it because it sounds like it's so much because you're thinking of the whole thing and how many pages and are people going to buy it? How about just like writing it and you don't have to publish it at all?
Yeah, that's so true. Even for me, I am not a graphic designer. I'm not a photographer. I can't format a book to save my life. Those things could have kept me from publishing this book. But I'm like, there are people who get lit up by those certain tasks.
It's shocking, but they exist.
So what I was able to do was focus on the writing and not be like, oh, I don't know how to create a cover. I don't know how to format this. Those things could have stopped me, but it was being able to hire people to bring it all together that made it worth it. And I think that's something, asking for help and getting help from people who are experts in this and that love to do it is the way to go. So even if you like don't think you're a writer, there's so many copy editors and so many people willing to help. I'm on so many like Facebook groups that are like self-published authors, and people are just giving feedback about certain things. They're saying like, hey, does anybody here know a really good graphic designer for a book? And it's really just being able to find that community of people that you can lean on when you have questions that just makes it so much less daunting. And then sometimes there's things where it's like, some guy the other day was writing on the Facebook page about, have you ever read your book so many times you don't even like it anymore? And I laughed because I was like,
that's so validating.
I still love my book. But when you're editing, and I just laughed and I was like, I'm so glad this guy's just being honest because we're all thinking it.
What made you go the self-published route versus pitching traditional publishers? Because as someone who, as a professional journalist background, because I have that as well, you know how to properly pitch. And my guess is you also know how to get press. Yep. So what made you not go that route?
For me, I wanted to have more ownership of my book. I had a vision, and I have other friends who have gone the traditional route, and it's been amazing for them, and they've loved it. For me, though, I didn't want, when you go traditional publishing, there's a lot of like guardrails. They're going to completely edit it. They're going to make it, may not even sound like you by the time it gets out there. And also it's like, sometimes you're given like this big lump sum, but then that's all like, you have to actually make that money back to get anything after.
It's not as sexy as it sounds.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if a lot of people even know this, but it's a lot of times like all these published authors, they're like New York Times bestsellers. And it's like, well, that's all a game. That's very gamey.
No, they don't know that. Can you speak to that? Because it actually makes a lot of people, it makes them in shame and it makes them feel imposter syndrome. Because it's like, oh my God, like this is the 10th person I follow and they launched their first book and they're on the New York Times best-selling list. They have a #1 book. It's like, it's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure. But behind the scenes and behind the curtain, it's all these like pre-sale copies. So it's like you have to sell so many X amount of copies. And these publishers have the money to do it and can also get these people on the list. That's the whole point of like getting the PR about the book. So if someone's a New York Times bestseller, a lot of it doesn't have to do with just self-promotion. It's the behind the scenes of other people working it, knowing certain people.
So it's based on number of book sales, not of the reviews or the quality or impact of the literature.
Sales. So if the publishers can pitch a book before it's even out there, or they buy X amount of copies for pre-order, then it will automatically go to the New York Times bestseller list.
But how does the New York Times bestseller list and some of these other lists, how do they track the sales? You have to show like proof or something?
I mean, I think I hate to say it's gamey, but a lot of it, I think, is just smoke and mirrors. And it really sucks because I know for me, I would love to be a New York Times bestseller, and I'm sure I will be one day. But I think by going the self-published route, I feel more authentic. And I think more people that actually this book is geared towards are going to buy it. And it's not going to be, this crazy amount of promotion and all these pre-sales before people even pick up a book and even know what it's about. I think
that's what stresses me out, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because I see my compadres in the space where they're paying. And just so you guys know, there are these teams, they're literally called Book in a Box. Okay.
Yeah.
Like you can literally pay a team and they will guarantee that you're on the Wall Street Journal book list. You're on this book list. And they have like a rinse and repeat formula. And they're doing a pre-sale. And then I see they have a live event. And it's like, oh my God, that sounds like a lot of fucking work. That doesn't sound fun to me. It takes the fun out of it. And then I start going, well, maybe you have to do all that to have a successful book. What are you doing to build hype for your book? Because I don't get the sense that you're kind of playing the game.
Yeah, definitely not. I think for me, I've been using my Notes to Self Shop Instagram to kind of reach out to people. I have a really good friend who's in PR, and we kind of work with each other because we're both trying to support each other's businesses. And so she's been a big help helping me get some extra podcast interviews. And I had a huge feature in the Post Gazette, which was super exciting for anybody who
she's like in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Like she's famous. Like, how fun. And you had her help and you pitched it. Okay. And I want people to hear the reality. Yeah. It's not like they slid into your DMs because you mentioned your book's coming out.
No, but I mean, she helps me with some of those things, but I also am reaching out and doing my own stuff. I've been going to local bookstores just in person saying, hey, I'd love to have you carry my book. What can we do? Can I do a book signing here? That stuff that like lights me up. And I want it to be where it's not this huge thing. It's more, hey, I want to meet the few people who are going to show up here. And I know that I can bring in people because I know my mom would come to she would buy all the books out if she had to. But I know it would be successful. Well, I think it's just been that. I've been reaching out to podcasts. It's been just very organic. And it's not like I'm paying people a lot of money to do this. I think that's the great thing about the digital age. You can reach so many more people a lot faster and within your like psychographic. And then I'm like, reaching those people is so much easier.
Yeah. And you guys don't need to go that route. It's like all the people who are like, oh my God, this person's in Forbes. Why would they hire me or learn from me or listen to me because they've been in Forbes? It's like they paid to be in Forbes. There's a game that goes on behind the scenes, right? There's traditional press and paid for press. There's lists that people pay to be on, and there's lists that you can't pay to be on, right? Try not to let that distract you. And I wanted to unpack all this stuff because I know how you guys think. And in your head, you're like, yeah, but what about this? And I don't have money for this. And then what about that? Because you're trying to stack all these reasons why not to do the thing that you want to do. And I hope we took some of those away from you. What do you want to leave these people with that's thought-provoking so they can sit and noodle on this instead of obsessing over something else about blowing up their life? Like what they might need to let go of. What are some questions you can give them for them to kind of really think about as they go throughout the week?
I really think it comes down to, do you still want to be in this same place that you're at 6 months, a year, 2 years from now? Would you let your friend in this same situation settle? Or would you tell them it's get the fuck out? So I think those are certain things. I think sometimes fear holds us all back. But to me, and I kind of really dive into this with my book, it's like fear is sort of this illusion that we create for ourselves. Fear of rejection, fear of compromising, fear of, am I am I imposter? Do I have imposter syndrome? Things like that. But I think if we let that go, that's really when the magic happens.
I'm so fucking proud of you. I can't, I really.
That makes sense.
This is, you are such a light, not just by what you're sharing in this book, but by the fact that you're doing it.
Mm-hmm. And I hope that I can inspire other people. That's why I wrote the book. I just want people to stop settling and to find their happiness, because it doesn't come from this list that society gives us, because that's not going to make you happy. Everyone has their own list, has their own life, their own dreams, their own goals. And we really have to look inside ourselves and figure out, what is that checklist? What is going to make me happy? And who would have thought, for me, my happy would be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where now I have this adorable and very talkative puppy, Penny Lane. I have a great boyfriend that I'm with right now. And like, I would have never met him or any of the friends that I've met here had I not moved to Pittsburgh. And I think there just is so much to be grateful for. And I just hope that my story can show people that there is something at the end of the rainbow. There's something or come out of the ashes like a phoenix. That's how I envision myself when I do these things. You can always pivot. You can always change, but you just trust yourself and go for it.
Decide today. Trust that you've heard us for a reason. Take a screenshot of this episode, share it in Instagram and Facebook, tag us at ProjectME with Tiffany, tag Amber at Notes to Self Shop. All the links are in the show notes, so you can swipe up, you can get the book, you can access her Instagram, you can access her store, and all those links are also on her Instagram at Notes to Self Shop. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and delivering hope in the way that you do. I appreciate you.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, Tiffany. This has been amazing.
Bonus surprise gift that is available for all of you when you leave a written review of the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Leave your name in the review or your Instagram or TikTok handle. Take a screenshot of it and email it to us at support@projectmewithtiffany.com. You can swipe up. The email is right inside the show notes, and you will get my brand new, never released Work Less While Making More printable workbook for free. This will soon be for sale, but I'm doing the special gift offer, and you can wait until it's for sale and then pay for it, or you can take 30 seconds and do this, and we will be emailing it out for free to you as long as you follow the instructions. And it's once everything's been submitted. So once the giveaway is over, because we're getting emails of people going, I haven't gotten the workbook yet. I haven't gotten it yet. I'm so excited for it. It's coming. We're just waiting for the giveaway to be over, which I'm probably going to run it for another week or so. I haven't determined yet. So make sure that you email us and take that screenshot and leave your name or Instagram or TikTok handle in the review. Share this episode and have a beautiful day. If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.